Hi there, welcome back on the channel. As you can see, we have another Dacia. And I say another because on my other channel, on the cars reviewed, I already reviewed the Dacia Spring, the electric one. But now it's time to see how the Duster copes with some used car conditions. Well, we have a 2022 model with about 31 to 32,000 kilometers on the clock. Now let's talk about the configuration of the car that I'm actually reviewing, because in my opinion it's quite a popular choice, both inside Romania and outside the country, because it's the 1.5 liter diesel engine with 6-speed manual gearbox and all-wheel drive, or 4-wheel drive to be more precise. I'm gonna run that data sheet for a moment here, even though most of those specs are not relevant. The engine, as I said, is a 1.5 liter, develops 110 horsepower and something like 260 Newton meters of torque. The top speed is limited to almost 170 kilometers per hour, and the sprint from 0 to 100 happens in about 12.5 seconds. But most of that is not really relevant. This is not a vehicle meant for high speed or sprints or what have you. But we do care about the weight, which is a bit over 1.3 tons, and about the consumptions. It's not gonna average 4.7 liters per 100 kilometers like the manufacturer states, but this model, it was driven mostly inside the city, and it shows an average of 6.7 liters, which is not bad. You do have to keep in mind the cost with such a vehicle. And the configuration, because I think it looks quite interesting. At least this one that I'm reviewing. Now let's check out the trunk space, because even though it's quite a small vehicle on the outside, the cargo area seems more than fine, in my opinion. You can squeeze at least 5 or maybe even 6 carry-on luggages like that one in the whole trunk area, and you do have some sort of hooks here and there with a light fixture, some additional space on the left side of the trunk area, and most importantly, under the boot floor, a full spare wheel with some additional space. Interesting. The only downside, in my opinion at least, is the cover, because it only goes up in 2 segments, and only the first one can be lifted with the tailgate. The other one remains fixed, and if you try to reach in towards the back of the trunk, as you can see, yeah, I'm a bit restricted, but anyway, it's something to be expected when you're considering a low-budget vehicle. Let's check out the back seats. Obviously, being a budget car, the whole door card is covered in hard brittle plastic, even here on the armrest, but at least you do have electric window and a door pocket. Some pockets on the seats, a couple of USB ports, which is nice, and a light fixture in the ceiling. That's pretty much it. So this is the space back here. As you can see, I do have just a bit over 1 finger of space for my knees. The headroom is alright, more than a palm of space, because it's sort of an SUV, this one, so it's alright in that regard. But yeah, you could stretch a bit under the front chair, because of the limit of space for your knees. You cannot stretch all that much, actually. And as usual, I do have a problem with the bench. It's a bit too short for my posture. But other than that, for short trips at least, it's more than fine. You have to manage your expectation. It's quite a low budget and on a small vehicle platform, so you get what you get. Now let's check out the passenger side. Here in front, the door card gets some additional contrast stitching and some decor elements, and also the armrest is quite soft, so that's nice. The seat itself, it's quite basic obviously, but at least we do have heating. And if we take a look inside, the door closing sound, it's a bit modest obviously, it's something to be expected, but at least the space is nice. You do have a couple of fingers of space. I have enough room for my knee, I'm not bumping it inside the central console, and you still have some additional orange contrasting elements in here. And the glove box, yeah, it's pretty basic, but at least it's quite deep actually, which is nice. At last, let's check out the driver's side. You do have some additional controls for the electric windows. The seat itself is almost identical with the heating button here, but you do get lumbar support, manual lumbar support. The mirrors are adjustable by this lever, and you also have blind spot assist over here. Let me just take a seat inside because it started to rain. And actually I'm gonna start the car as well. Well, pretty much this is the view of the driver. The steering wheel, it's quite nice actually, pretty light to use. You do have the cruise control physical buttons on the left side of the steering wheel, and on the right side you control the small information display. And it's quite a interesting array of buttons because you do not get the cruise control scattered around the interior of the car. They are all here, which is nice. I'm saying that because of older Dacia models, so anyway. Behind the steering wheel we have the usual stocks for lights and wipers, and an additional control for the multimedia system. This is the gauge cluster, analog, simple to read. It's quite useful, so you can also see the coolant temperature. The mirror is not dimmable, but at least the infotainment screen, it's actually pretty nice to operate. It's not the largest and it's positioned quite low, but at least it does respond fairly quick, and you can integrate your phone. Then we have some physical controls for the hill descent control, start-stop function, eco mode, hazard lights, locking and unlocking of the doors. You can stop the parking sensors from here, activate the parking cameras, or deactivate the I'm having a blank with the traction control from here. But I do want to point out that we do have 360 cameras, which, alright, they are not the highest resolution cameras, but at least they're there, so nice. You have a climate unit with physical buttons, which again looks quite nice. A couple of USB, as in the back, and an additional 12-volt outlet, which I forgot to show you in the trunk area as well. Some storage space, sort of a cup holder, another set of cup holders here, not adjustable, but anyway. The handbrake, from here you control the four-wheel drive system of the car, and obviously you have the gear selector. And under the armrest you have an additional cubby space. Welcome to the driving part of the review, today with the Dacia Duster. And yeah, it does sound quite cheerful because it's an interesting car if you manage your expectations. I've been driving it for a moment, and to be honest, even though I'm not able to show you what it can really do, meaning some sort of off-road or at least some soft road, but I'll show you some driving impressions outside the city. Yeah, you could use it inside the city, but I'm not sure that you would want to do that with the diesel engine, at least get the petrol version. But other than that, outside the city, it's sort of a mixed feeling vehicle, in my opinion. It depends, obviously, on what are you used to drive, or whatever vehicle you reviewed or tried so far. But once again, if you manage your expectations, it's gonna be a great vehicle for short to medium trips. I wouldn't go long distance in this vehicle, not even if I would have to, and I'll explain why. Obviously, this performance is not gonna be impressive, it's not meant to be, but at least the controls are easy to use. The downsides are the suspension, in my opinion, because it's quite basic and all of the bumps and potholes from the road surface are protruding inside the cabin. And also the noise levels are quite high. I'm running in top gear, in 6th gear, at about 80 to 90 kilometers per hour, and it's quite noisy inside the cabin. I really need to up my voice to make me hear myself. So yeah, there are obviously some downsides, but you have to expect them. I mean, it's a budget vehicle. Maybe you could use it like your second car of the family, or something to thrash about, to go on off-road, to, I don't know, use it to carry stuff, something like that. Obviously, it's not gonna be something that will break the bank. So, as I said, for a second vehicle, it kind of makes sense, actually. Until we get to a parking place on this stretch of road where I can do sort of a sprint from maybe 30 kilometers per hour towards 100. I will talk about the things that I enjoyed while reviewing the car and the things that didn't necessarily convince me. And I think I'll start with the negatives, because even though it's a budget vehicle, there are not so many negatives, in my opinion, because I do manage my expectations. Actually, I almost had no expectations coming to review this vehicle, because I know the price point and I know the brand. I didn't own any model from Dacia, but I got to interact with a couple of them. So, okay, so the second gear is quite short. Anyway, let's do the sprint first, and then I'll continue about the negatives of this vehicle. So I'll start in third because the second gear is quite short, as I said. Let's see, from 30 now. That was it. Obviously, it's not gonna impress anybody, but it's not meant to do that, so I'm fine with it. Yeah, I was talking about the negatives. I already shown you the parcel shelf for the trunk area. I'm not a fan of that. I already mentioned the noise levels and also the suspension. I would mention the steering feel, sort of, half of it. I'll explain more in a bit. But yeah, it does feel quite wallowy. It's something to be expected. Once again, it's sort of an SUV, but yeah, I don't really trust it. I feel like it bounces from side to side quite heavily, and even if you raise the speed, the steering feel, it's still numb. I mean, yeah. Probably it will help in off-road, and I'll make a small break towards the things that I do enjoy about the car, and it's actually the steering feel. Because if you use the car in off-road or even inside the city while parking, the steering feel is quite light, and the car altogether is easy to maneuver. So, in my opinion, considering the destination of the vehicle, that's a plus. But anyway, let's get back to the negatives. Actually, no, that's pretty much it, because yeah, you can complain about the space. I'm not really able to find the suitable driving position for my height and weight. The seats are not the most supportive, nor they are comfortable, because I miss a lot of base seat under my thighs. But all of this is again something to be expected when you are looking at the bottom end of the car market. And even if this vehicle with this configuration was not really the cheapest, I mean, alright, you do get quite a lot for your money and quite a lot of features and creature comfort. But all in all, it shows that it is quite a budget model. But that's pretty much it in terms of downsides. In terms of the positive, no, I do have to make another small mention. The handbrake lever, when you try to operate it, you really bump your hand on the belt bucket for the passenger side. But again, it's something to be expected, considering that the vehicle it's quite small inside. But as I said, let's get back to the positives. I'm gonna compare it for a moment with some additional models from Dacia, especially from back in the days, when you pretty much only got the steering wheel, the doors and some wheels on the car. You could opt for air conditioning, and that was pretty much it. But nowadays, if we take a look at this vehicle, I mean, it's impressive. You do have keyless entry and keyless go. and it works just by coming near the vehicle or going away from it. You don't have to do anything else, just to have the key card in your pocket. You do have LED headlights, you have a blind spot monitor, climate unit with auto function and with physical buttons, something to be impressed by in 2022, to be honest. Yeah, you do get the small infotainment screen, which is not amazing, but at least it runs Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and it runs it quite fast actually, which again, it's a plus in my opinion. Let's see what else. Oh, the heated seats. Again, it's a plus for Dacia in general. The tinted windows on the back. Again, something that I was not expecting to see on Dacia. And the fact that you can get a four-wheel drive vehicle at a low cost. Again, it's a plus in my opinion. Plus the 360 cameras. Once again, something impressive for this brand. I know most of these things you take for granted nowadays because they are pretty much common for almost all manufacturers. But considering that this is quite a budget, a low-end manufacturer, for me at least, it's impressive. So yeah, those are the positives and the negatives in my opinion. And now in the end I'll talk about the maintenance for a moment, because this vehicle does come with a diesel engine. You will be better off maintaining it at around 8,000 kilometers, maybe towards 10,000 if you're using it outside the city, but I wouldn't go any more than that. Even though it's not necessarily a vehicle that will encourage you to drive fast, nor necessarily below 1,500 RPMs. Even so, I consider that you should maintain it quite often. You could look at the four-wheel drive system in terms of maintenance. And to be honest, that's pretty much it, because it's quite a light car, as I said, almost 1.3 tons. So it's not gonna be a problem in terms of brakes, in terms of suspension components, or in terms of the tires. Yeah, I know this model does come with 17 inches, which are gonna be a bit more expensive. But come on, you will probably replace them once or twice in the whole lifetime of the vehicle, so it's not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion. So yeah, the total cost of ownership, the overall costs, are gonna be quite low with this vehicle, because it's quite fuel efficient. You could see probably values over 10 liters only if you drive it inside Bucharest or some other crowded city, but in a normal city you'll most likely see values at around 7 to 8 liters. On the highway, I presume the consumptions are going to be nearly there as well, because it is quite a tall vehicle with a high ground clearance, and the aerodynamics are not necessarily the strong point. But even so, if you drive it outside the city, but on national roads, on B roads, obeying the speed limit, you'll probably sit at around 4 to 5 liters on every 100 kilometers. So, yeah, as I said, for the most part, it's alright. If you know what you're getting yourself into, you'll not get disappointed with this vehicle. And it's the same for me. I was not disappointed. I knew what is the main purpose of the car, and in some aspects it was a nice surprise for me, at least on this vehicle that I reviewed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed what you saw, please consider liking to the video and also subscribing to the channel, because it's free. And if you do own a Duster, you could leave your impressions in the comment section. Until next time, thank you for watching.